Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you gotta get spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Well, it's Tuesday. Yeah, and it looks like markets moved on us last night. So let's kind of take a look at the damage here. You got the treasuries. This is the end. I was trying to figure out that was not. Well, anyways, here we got another move higher here this morning, and I'm not quite sure what is driving that, but I do have. Let's see here. What do we have this morning? We have IA Services PMI at 8 o'clock. Okay. S&P 500, kind of doing another one of them crazy ups and then falling apart overnight. And Nvidia in particular, like, took a huge dive at the end of the day. Oil similarly turning down. Gold and silver continuing to rise. And Kappa not looking so hot. Well, this is just okay, but you know, I want to see that one go up. Copper more than anything. Not that I'm invested in copper, but you know, I kind of feel like, you know, if copper went up, that everything else would do better. Okay, and then we got the 6J and the dollar. 6J kind of rising overnight because of comments from Japanese central bank. And down here, the dollar, below 104 still, so. And Bitcoin continues to be cray-cray. They're like just shy of an all-time high, so probably they'll make it here in the next few days, is my guess. Yeah. So, where does that put us? Well, I think I can continue to hold this until it hits the stop. Yeah. It looks like that the thing that they were saying overnight was like the market needs to brace for higher rates and things like this, was what the Japanese central bank said. But we're moving up. I find that a little bit bizarre. But I believe that that's what was driving the treasuries overnight. So if that is what's driving on the treasuries overnight, I think I want to try and hold on to this. Oh, we'll see. This one's kind of a little bit of an experiment. Don't know how it's really going to turn out. Just gonna have to play it by ear and enjoy the ride. Well, and let's see. So there's no bottom of the hour news today. Good morning, Dom Dom, Alan, Paul. Always here bright and early. Thank you very much. Let's check Twitter here. I wonder if Churchill's courage and boldness was not just a result of continuous inebriation, says Nassim Taleb. Could be. Could be. Man, Taleb is just going, continues going off the rails, though. He's talking about how Churchill lobbied the CIA for a coup. Okay. In Iran. Yeah, okay. Not that interested in here. Tether pays people in third world countries $10 a day to spam Twitter with pro-Tether garbage, says Bitfinex. Really? I think Tether looks really active lately. Like, they keep printing $1 billion at a time. Do you guys really think that a company in the Cayman Island has $1 billion in cash equivalents just sitting around? Did you purchase an NVIDIA GPU for your... Well, so my server is basically the old streaming machine. So it has the old streaming machine's GPU, which was a 1060. It was a GeForce 1060. So it's not super powerful, but it should be able to do the job that I want it to do. And then I bought a 3060 for the new machine. And I have been playing the new game, Helldivers. And it's been working real well. It's been working real well for me, so yeah. Elon Musk tweeting about superconductors. That's kind of weird. Brannigan news on Apple and AMD will set the tone for the trading day outlook. Clearly not that rosy. Yeah, so I think there maybe is some news about them that has kind of been pushing us down. Let me check CNBC real quick. I need some help in a Ninja. Oh, I'm down. You know what? If you want to send me the code on Discord, I could look at the code, or you could just try and explain your problem. Biden to launch joint FTC Department of Justice task force to crack down on unfair and illegal pricing. Yeah, that's not how it works, but okay. Apple iPhone sales plunged 24% in China as Huawei smartphone business resurges, says reports. $100K photos. Details of the Biden fundraiser with 3 presidents, huh? Oh boy. Oh boy. You know, so I'm seeing 100,000. It reminds me of something I saw this morning. There's an account I follow with an old Brave friend that claims to have made $100,000 from investing in Bitcoin mining, which sounds a little ridiculous to me. So I'm pretty sure that the account got hacked because, first of all, that person would be very unlikely to invest in crypto, and there's no way that they would invest enough to turn it into 100,000 over this past cycle, right? So it's almost certainly hacked. So what does the hacked account say that they did with the $100,000? They bought a Range Rover, of course, a Range Rover. So you can spend like what, $60,000-$70,000 on a Range Rover, and then in 3 years it won't be worth anything, and you're going to sell it and buy a new Range Rover and spend another $60,000, and then you'll have wasted all of that money. I can't believe that. I really hope ain't nobody falling for that. Fred saying 4-year transcription solution. And then he's got a link for me. Is it going to be one of those I forget what the letters that you get in front of it is. Oh, build and deploy a fully customizable, multilingual, and oh wait. Oh, here, I'll pull it over here. It's showing me these people's faces. So will it help me animate the face? I'm so down. NVIDIA Riva, build and deploy fully customizable. Okay, let's get started. Licensing options for individuals looking to get free Riva containers for development for 90 days. Uh-oh. Okay, so it is a monthly thing, isn't it? Automatic speech recognition, text-to-speech, neural machine translation. Pre-built Docker container. Ooh, that's cool. They give you the Docker container with all of the stuff. Interesting. Triton Management Service. Don't know what that means. Model orchestration for large-scale deployment. Okay, so Triton must be their version of Kubernetes. AI workflows for reference architects and common AI use cases, workload and infrastructure management features, business supports. So it is a cloud solution. How much does it cost? You have to contact sales. They don't even tell you. It says you can do it all local. So are you saying that like I can use their libraries without paying them? Or maybe it's just the 90-day trial? I don't know. See, I have something already that does the transcription. I just haven't containerized it yet. That's why I find that they provide the Docker container to be so interesting, because I'm worried that when I put it into my Docker container that and start it on my Kubernetes cluster, that I'll have a problem getting that container to actually access the GPU resources. I don't know how that works yet. Man, that was a pretty aggressive buy there. And the market didn't really move at all, like just kind of stayed pat. NVIDIA Riva SDK is a comprehensive speech AI system. We use this tool to create speech AI applications for the NVIDIA Jetson. Okay, here's a guy doing the whole... Yeah, and I don't remember what framework I was using. But they were showing like these talking AIs. If I could find something that helped me turn, so like I have something that does a transcription, right? And then the next big question after that is, how do you get a GPT to deal with live data, essentially? Like I'm continuing to talk, and how does it decide when to interject and try and speak to me and that sort of a thing? I don't know how I figured that part out, right? Then it would have to be like it says stuff to me, right? And if I could find software that would help me take the words that it comes up with and use a make an animation so that it's like there's a character that actually talks and says it, that would be freaking amazing. But it looks like that was just part of their marketing materials, and that's not actually in there. Now, writing it all using Python and the Riva library, that might be something worthwhile. And oh, okay. Docker daemon, they're doing it with the Docker daemon file. I'm not familiar with that, but default runtime NVIDIA. Surely there's a Docker container out there already that I could go and look and start using. So maybe I should use that. Riva Python client. Let's see here. Riva Docker container. Holy crap. Now they're selling it at 04? Wait, was it just as big? No, it's actually larger. I don't know what's going on there. That was super sketchy action. Really big buy, and then it almost immediately turns down. Okay, so my news squawk is talking about a Financial Times piece where the ECB was suggesting that its employees needed to be reprogrammed to be more supportive of climate change initiatives. I can't imagine that that's actually what's driving this here, but that's what I was hearing on the news squawk at this time. So, new order after hitting take profit in the same direction? Could be. You could be right. Like it comes up there, and then, well, no, that wouldn't make sense because the orders were buys, right? So why would your take profit be buys? No, because if you were long, you would be selling it, right? Oh, no, you're talking about your Ninja Script strategy. Your new order after hitting the take profit in the same direction I tried, but lots of OS compilation errors. Okay. So you're saying you have a strategy and you hit a take profit and now you want to submit a new order in the same direction? So is that to say that, like, you take your original position, it goes up 4 ticks and you take profit, and then when that happens, you then say, okay, where do I want to take the next order off? And you dynamically determine what the next take profit price is going to be? So if that was the case, then you would probably be using the on position update method, right? You'd say on position update, calculate what the next one's going to be, or something like that. But who knows what your compilation errors are? You'd have to send me the script. Oh, I see. When you stop out, you want it to take the opposite position. You want it to stop and reverse. Gotcha. So I think it would still be the same sort of a thing. Is like if you stop out and then say enter a position the opposite direction. That should be relatively straightforward to do. So what compilation errors are you getting? Well, no, what I would say is, so there's a method called on position update, right? Which basically gets called anytime that something is happening with your position. So what you could say is on position update, if I am exiting along, then afterwards enter short. And I would just use literally enter short method. The documentation that I'm reading here for this NVIDIA thing is a little sketch because I'm looking for what is in the Docker file. Like, what is the name? What is the name of your Docker image? And I'm not finding that in this documentation. And I'm like, why won't you tell me? Probably because they don't want me to run it on my own machine. This article or put over here so that I can look at it later. Mm-hmm. I could maybe look at the Helm file. This isn't necessarily new stuff either, is it? Okay, well, I'm gonna have to watch that video later. Okay, Frontier says he will send the code in Discord. Brad says you can load all the models locally and train your own model. Probably. It's not telling me what the Docker image is, right? Because the way that this usually works is there's a Docker file, and then within that Docker file, you can kind of put a couple of commands and things like that. Because they're saying, okay, once you have the Docker image running, you can run this command to do this thing, and you can run this command to do this thing. And it's like, okay, but I put those in the Docker file, but inside the Docker file, it will also give me the information about the image itself so that I can kind of build my own thing based on the Docker image. Because I am more interested in what is on the image, like how does the image work? Which is it a Linux? Which distribution is it based on? What extra packages is it installing and so on? That's what I'm interested in at the moment, right? Because I want to understand what services and stuff are necessary in order for it to access the GPU, right? Because I might need to add additional stuff. Because I think the way that I want to have this work is I can have what do we call these? I can't remember. There's this thing you can do them in OBS. Basically, you can like send an audio video feed across the network to another device. I forget what they're called. Well, anyways, I think that I can have it so that the audio is also streaming out across my network specifically to that container, and then the container reads it and transcribes it. So that's probably going to require some libraries and so forth for that to work too, right? Because I needed libraries and I had to do a little bit of funky stuff to get it to access my audio, my sound card and stuff. Anyways, I don't know if it would work across the internet either. That's another thing. Like, I am designing this so that I can move it into the cloud if it gets to that point, right? Like if I have like a fully automated AI that interacts with me, and like everybody thinks it's cool and like the stream is taken off because of it or something like that, then I could just spend any of the extra income that comes in on cloud services and do it on the cloud. You have time to get it working? Well, I could probably get the initial thing working, or at least their tutorials working, but it would be cool. But there does, like I said, there seems to be a couple of roadblocks, right? There's a couple of key things that we would have to figure out that I don't know if anybody else has done, right? Like, how do you make an AI that determines when to say something to you? That it just listens to you to talking and then it decides as the best time to interject. I've never heard of any kind of model that does that. I would probably just have something that is like, I would make some key that like, okay, now you take all of the things that I just said and put it into the model and now have the GPT make a response. I'm done talking. Now it's your turn to talk or something like that, you know? Could be interesting. I don't know. I don't know what to think of the treasuries here. Those big orders got me shook a little bit. That it was like it bought up here and then it sold down here has me a little bit miffed. Like when it starts doing that stuff, that kind of makes me not want to get involved in the market because I feel like it's a little manipulative. But there's definitely some volume. There's definitely some stuff going on. Like there's a lot of activity in the treasuries right now, even though it's unclear to me where it's actually going. I suppose that seeing high activity in the treasuries would kind of suggest further uptrend to me, because, like, why would people be more interested than ever in, being involved in the treasury markets? That only makes sense if, like, we're in an uptrend, right? That the prices are quite low and you want to buy them, sort of a thing. Top story on Zero Hedge now is Super Tuesday kicks off. So here in Utah, we have caucuses, and I'm curious to see how that goes. I don't know if Trump will actually win in Utah. I'm guessing he does, but I don't actually know. I don't really know anything. If Nikki Haley doesn't drop out after tonight, though, like there was a time where I was like, well, maybe she'll do well. We could see where that goes. But like seeing how she has reacted to like being the last person in the race and head to head against Trump and like losing badly, it really, really turns me off. Taylor 2020. I don't know who that is. Is a flight to safety going on right now? You could maybe. I think that the move up overnight in the treasuries was largely because of the Japanese yen. I don't think that the correlations off of that particular piece of news really makes sense to me, but I'm that's my best theory that I have. If that is the case, maybe the treasuries want to mean revert and erase that and say, oh, that actually doesn't make sense, right? But maybe what happened just makes them even more interested in buying. I don't know. I'm not really seeing the steepener this morning. So but then you say, is there a flight to safety trade going on? Well, the S&P 500 did take a couple of hits in the past day. But I don't think that would necessarily trigger like panic by treasuries sort of a thing. Not in the current circumstances. I think any kind of like bump in the road like that would probably still be looked at as a buy the dip opportunity, you know? The intelligence community probably told her to stay in. Nudge, nudge, wink, maybe. I can't really come up with an explanation for how Nikki Haley has behaved that doesn't involve somebody making a really bad miscalculation, right? Because her being in, I think, is just helping Trump. I think that it would maybe be a little bit different if there was somebody that had a little bit more wide support, like if Ron DeSantis' campaign hadn't gone so poorly and it was him and Trump, then maybe it would actually be a close contest. But with the way that Nikki Haley has acted is basically been like, yep, I'm a part of the swamp. I'm totally okay with being called that, and just being the most hawkish, like insanely hawkish rhetoric that she can possibly muster, and then the most insanely anti-Trump rhetoric that she can muster. That's not going to play well for you. You know, like that's not going to help you win. No way. So the whole thing is just seems a little tone deaf to me, you know? She's toast. You probably like, I just don't get why she's, you know, because the thing is that now she's really hurting herself, I think. Like, if she had dropped out around the same time that Ron DeSantis had, she would probably be a strong contender for 2028, for instance, right? She would still be like the hawk and everything, but like with Trump gone, and you know, like maybe that could work. Maybe that could work in the right circumstances, right? But now, no way. I kind of wonder if she could even win an election in her own home state now at this point. Like, she's completely destroying any of her future political ambitions. Yeah, the Koch brothers bailed on her. That is a super PAC that was given a lot of money by the Koch brothers. I don't know if that should necessarily be looked at as the Koch brothers are withdrawing their support from Haley because they're disappointed in her. I think it's more there is a PAC and they have a lot of different things that they want to do and look at, and they're deciding, you know, to spend more money on other things. And I wouldn't necessarily read that as okay, you're done, Haley, like you should drop out, sort of a thing, right? Unless she wants to be, well, there's no way that Donald Trump picks her to be vice president now. Like there was a point where I kind of think maybe she would be on the list, but not now. Although she probably got taken off the list well into the debates, right? The issue is that her hawkish rhetoric is just not really in line with, let's say it's not congruent with either the current situation or the Republican electorate right now. The Republican electorate does not want to become involved in more foreign conflicts, okay? The Republican electorate is very conflicted about this Ukraine thing. I don't think that the Republicans want Ukraine to lose, but they don't want to spend more money on it, and they're kind of asking, how much more money are we going to put into this thing? We're kind of being told, we just need like one more push of money, and then like Russia shouldn't be able to handle it, right? I don't know if that's true. I kind of think that if we give them money, that they'll come back in another 2 years and they'll need even more, and this will just go on forever. But that's my own opinion. The Republicans are they just don't want to spend the money, right? So coming in and being like the most hardcore hawkish candidate just doesn't play well. It just doesn't play well. And then Donald Trump in particular definitely doesn't want foreign conflicts, right? So there's no way that he's going to pick you to be his VP. I think the most likely VP pick at this time is, do you say her name? Kristi Noem? Something like that. Governor from one of the Dakotas. I think she's probably the most likely one to get the nod. Female vice president, somebody that's super conservative, relatively pro-Trump. I think that would probably be the safest pick. And she's been interviewed for the job, as I understand it. So I think she's probably the most likely one to get the pick. What about Kari Lake? I don't think that Kari Lake is experienced enough to be put in the presidency, to be honest. I always this one always confuses me when you have a politician that loses their election and then people want to, nominate her for an even more important position, right? So she lost the contest for the Senate in Arizona. So now you're going to have her fail up and become president. Like, I think that you should pick politicians that have been successful first. More broadly speaking, senators do not always make good presidents. Like governors tend to make pretty good presidents. Military generals also tend to make very good presidents. But senators are kind of hit and miss. I'd argue VP is less important than a senator. I think you kind of are right to some extent, aren't you? But I'm just saying, you have to win. You have to have won a job and been in a position of some sort for a little while. I don't want like somebody that they've never been in the Senate. They've never been in a federal government office. I wouldn't be picking them for my vice president pick. And to be frank, it's a hard pull for me, at least, to take somebody that has never been in federal office for president. But it doesn't really apply for Trump this time because it would be his second term, right? So he's been around now, but maybe if you have been the CEO of a corporation or something, like what you're looking for is what kind of executive experience they have, right? So a senator is an executive because they have staff and they're doing their whole thing, right? But not on the same level that a president is, or that a general is, or that a governor is. So that's why I think that the record for senators is a little bit more spotty, But Trump hadn't, at the beginning, we could say he had executive experience as, being in charge of a corporation. I'm not completely sold on that. I think that it worked out okay for Donald Trump. But if I were to look, if some other, what is his name? Vivek, right? His only experience is being CEO of a pharmaceutical corp. I really don't believe that he has the experience to go into government. I don't. I think that he would get in government and would, and I think that this Donald Trump experienced this to some extent too, and it was probably a major factor behind why not a whole lot got done. Is like, you don't understand the Washington machine and you don't know what to do. It happens a lot. The most common thing that I see happen is people want to become House representatives or senators, and once they do, they realize that it ain't all it was cracked up to be. Like, they have all of these big pie in the sky dreams about what they want to do policy wise, and then when they're actually in the positions of power, they realize and understand why we don't already have those policies, right? And sometimes it's because once you can see the machine from the inside, you can see why that policy would be a really bad policy, right? It's either that or you just understand what the current political climate actually is and why it's so hard to get that particular thing passed, right? If Biden can do it, anyone can. Well, you know what? I still to this day sit down and wonder sometimes how the F did Biden ever become president. It just seems so insane to me. Like if you had gone back to the election when Joe Biden was one of the candidates, it was like Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, and Barack Obama, right? And Joe Biden, you know, nobody was taking him seriously, and then there was a scandal where he had plagiarized, and so he dropped out of the race, right? Okay. If you had told me that back then that you know, what are the chances that Joe Biden becomes president in a future election? I would have told you Donald Trump probably stands a better chance of becoming president than Joe Biden, right? Because at the time, there was no, you know, Donald Trump was starting to become politically active and was like a voice on Twitter that was kind of starting to rile the status quo. But nobody in the million years ever dreamed that he would actually run for president. And then that if he ran for president, that he would actually win, right? So, truth is stranger than fiction. It really is. Every FBI printer running all night to turn out a lot of ballots. You know what? I'm not sure if I'm sold on that sort of a thing happening. I do think it's incredibly suspicious that, like, they said, let's stop counting. And then when they started counting again, all of a sudden it's like a huge boost for Biden and all of that sort of a thing. But I don't have any direct evidence for like shenanigans in those ways, and I think that there are probably logical explanations for those things. I think that it is more the case that there were changes in election procedures that were made that, in my opinion, were illegal. That basically turning every state into a mail-in vote state, and some of these states having like basically vote harvesting being illegal or being legal and all of that sort of a thing. I think that if it wasn't for those changes, I've seen a few studies, there is some evidence to suggest that those changes were the difference in the election and that Donald Trump would have won if they hadn't have changed those rules. And one of the things that happened that I remember being very upset about was that they made a rule change in Pennsylvania that basically turned Pennsylvania into a mail-in vote state. And what they did was like almost explicitly in contradiction of like what the state Senate had said the election laws were. And then there was a case in the state court said that, you know, the election committee or whatever, that we go with what they said, right? So like they basically took the rules and like changed the rules against what the Senate had said. And that was something that I think should have gone to the Supreme Court and got overturned, and that the election laws should not have been changed, right? And that sort of a thing, I think, is why Donald Trump was a factor in Donald Trump losing. So if you're going to say like they stole the election, I would say that's how they did it. I'm so impressed that so many people care about America that they came back and voted after death. Did you see that also there was this other study that like they polled illegal immigrants specifically, I believe they specifically were polling illegal immigrants, and they asked them like, have you done these things? Like, have you voted? Or have you voted for somebody that didn't live there anymore? Or, you know, that sort of a thing. And then they took the poll numbers from those responses and they said, well, if you apply those stats to the actual voting numbers, then it would change the election in Joe Biden's favor. So that would be another way that you could say that the election was potentially stolen. But I think when people say that the election is stolen, they're saying that, like, you know, they can manipulate the votes that the machine comes, and if you actually counted it by hand, that it would come out differently, and that sort of a thing. It's a plausible theory, I suppose, but I don't have any evidence of it. By the way, good morning, Stephen. It's been a while. What are you up to? Let's see here. 15 minutes until the S&P 500 opens. The treasury market has quieted down considerably now. S&P is still on the downturn, and the dollar flipped around. So I don't know what's going on with the dollar, but that was a pretty jarring bit of action there in the dollar, wasn't it? You said plausible. Did you mean laughable? No, I think it's plausible, but I think so. Here's the thing on this kind of like, for instance, did they like come in and like, well, they stopped counting because of a water leak or whatever, stuff ballots or something like that, right? Okay, possible. How would you prove it? Well, I would think that if that had actually happened, that it would be easier to find evidence of it. Because basically what it came down to when they were pushing this after the election, you know, before Joe Biden got elected in, they were doing all of the legal stuff, was they wanted to have a court case, right? And then it kept getting thrown out, essentially. They said, oh, you don't have enough evidence to actually do any of this stuff. And the Republicans thought that if there was actually a court case and it went to discovery and all of that, that then that evidence would be discovered, right? But I am of the opinion that if there really was like that kind of voter fraud, that you would have been able to have found evidence to make the court case go forward. So I'm mad that they didn't do those court cases, because like now we never know for sure. Like for me, from an empirical standpoint, to say like it did or it didn't happen, I have to have like the actual like data. And this is a case where you can get data and say like this X thing didn't happen, because you can like pull the ballots out and recount them and look at the systems, and there's all of this forensic kind of investigation that you could do that would show that something happened or didn't happen, right? So, you know, I think that if they had allowed it to go to trial, that would have settled the issue, and then there wouldn't be anything to debate about, right? But because of the way that it went, probably there was no fraud. Probably if we had the court case, they wouldn't have found anything and they would have ruled that there was no fraud. My guess. Yeah, they threw a bunch of that stuff out. Yeah, that's what I was saying, was that like the judges kept ruling that, you know, and you know what? I understand the ruling. I really do. And I think it's kind of in line with the thing that the Supreme Court put out yesterday too, right? Which is like, the Supreme Court could have said that the state doesn't have the jurisdiction to do this, but what if the federal government prosecuted successfully Donald Trump for this, for insurrection, right? If he was successfully prosecuted under that law, then does that law become self-reinforcing? And that's what the liberal justices were trying to say. And the conservative justices, I think, did a wise thing, even though I'm not 100% sure if that's really what the legal, you know, like based on the Constitution and everything, if that's what the legal precedent should be. But I think that for like well-functioning government and everything, that basically saying Congress has to do this is probably the best thing, because otherwise it would just be like this ongoing thing that goes on forever and ever and ever. And it's the same thing. It's just like, are we really going to create this ongoing legal issue that causes a bunch of controversy and so forth? If we're going to go down that route, we need to have pretty good reason to do it first. And the judges were saying that they had not met that standard. So I think that their decision makes sense. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I think that their decision makes sense. I think that the decision that the Supreme Court did make sense too. Because now challenges to Donald Trump's eligibility are basically dead in the water now because of that. And I think that's the best thing for the country right now. I don't think that it would be a positive thing for the country to continue to adjudicate Donald Trump for months and months and months on end, and then question, if he wins, question that he really shouldn't have been able to even been on the ballot or something like that. Like, that is so contentious. That would be so negative for the country. It's better to just like drop it and move it on. And I kind of, I feel like ultimately in the end on both cases that's probably a better thing, right? Now, the only reason why I kind of say what I say about the election fraud thing is because that election is over. We did move on. At that point, shouldn't we like fix the laws, right? Shouldn't we be saying, hey, this was done, shouldn't have been done. This is what this state's Senate rules. Those states' Senates would have changed their rules to be more explicit or to make it so that they can do an end run around it. Made the balloting more secure. Dealt with issues that like, we think that illegal aliens are actually voting when they're not supposed to, and all of that sort of stuff, right? But we didn't fix any of that, did we? We didn't fix any of that. So people that have reason to be skeptical of the election are just going to be even more skeptical, because they're going to say, well, like, why didn't they fix it? I tell you why, so that they can steal it again, right? Like, Anyways, what do you think about ISM? I think that it's a services ISM and that it is likely to be considerably stronger than the manufacturing ISMs that we got last week. And actually a reasonable chance of it being better than the market's expectation as well. I think that ISM will come out and that the treasuries will sell. But, that's like a very speculative guess. Wouldn't recommend holding a position through the news. We are going to, because we got this swing trade, but has absolutely nothing to do with what I think the ISM is going to be. And what are the numbers that they think, by the way? And we do get with the S&P PMIs at 745, and then the ISM at the top of the hour, and they expect the ISM to be a 53 versus a previous reading of 53.4. And I'm saying I think it could be like 54. Do you trade in live? So generally speaking, yes. So this trade right here is not live. This one that I've had on for weeks, it's not live, okay? When I take live trades, I take them over here in the micro treasuries, and they're super, super small trades. And I haven't really been taking a whole lot of live trades in here lately, simply because I haven't seen the opportunities, right? But we take live trades all the time over here. But I'm not somebody that you're going to see come in and scalp like 20 times a day and that sort of. I think that doing that as a retail trader is generally kind of silly. You probably don't have that kind of an edge. But lately it's been a while, so I kind of feel like I don't live trade. Normally the answer would just be like, yeah, look, see, there's the live trade is on right now, right? But I haven't taken very many live trades in the last like month. I just and you know what? It was the right decision. Because like come over here and you look at the treasury, right? Basically from here to here is the time period we were talking about. I was trading over here. I was trading in all of this. And I don't remember which one it was, but one of these moves screwed me really hard. But this thing right here, nah. And good reason, because like, look, the volatility decreased significantly through here. So we're just here for the politics and prescription amphetamine talk. One of my well, actually two of my kids have now gotten on ADHD medications, and they were working on homework just when she came back from school, because I kept telling her like, you're having problems with the homework, you really need to make sure that you do it like as soon as she gets home. And it was like such a night and day difference. Like she was describing the problem, she just pretty matter of factly walked through the problem and like the issue that she was having with it. No stuttering or anything. And I was like, yeah, that's different child. Different child. I feel like there was something that I was looking at before we got on all of those conversations, but I don't remember what it was. Bitfinex reposts somebody else. Or no, was this? Yeah, he reposted somebody else, I think. What are they saying here? Paolo, the CEO of Tether, is doing a damage control interview with Bankless, a friendly interview where no real questions are asked of Tether, of course. Nor are their previous proven lies really discussed. Everything is taken at face value as a puff piece for the largest financial fraud in history. Diallo talks about the exchange coordination room, about how all of Tether's co-conspirators looked at Tether and thought Tether would go down, but Tether co-conspirators have gone down first. First it was Sam Bankman-Fried, then CZ. Diallo mentions how he's all alone now in his coordination room. Interestingly, they bring up about how the industry is moving the goalposts on Tether when Tether's fraud has already been proven by multiple government authorities regarding their so-called backing. Also, they claim that Tether, for some inexplicable reason, can't perform an audit despite money market funds able to perform audits. And of course, they don't worry about any of the catastrophic bad news that has hit Tether in the past weeks, notably Tether supporting $75 billion of pig butchering. And Tether owned Deltec Bank, secretly giving Sam Bankman-Fried credit to buy Tethers for market manipulation and fraud that resulted in billions of dollars in losses that ultimately ended up in Tether's pockets. That's why Tether can't produce an audit. And meanwhile, his pig butchering is a shit scam. I've never heard of that. But man, when he puts it in perspective, it really is like, Bitcoin's going up like crazy. I don't know how much of it is like ETFs versus Tether versus other kind of frauds that are going on in here. But I'm just looking at what is driving this thing. I want no part of it. I know that it's going to go up. I want no part of it. It's just like if you were looking at the Bernie Madoff fund and you said, well, yeah, probably if you get in the fund right now, you make money. And there was some hedge funds that did that. There was one fund in particular that everybody thinks, yeah, he probably knew. He got a little bit from it, and then he got out before the fraud was called out, right? I think it's the same thing. Yeah, it's probably going to go up in the next year. You probably make money. I want no part of it. Was this a scam revealing channel called Pleasant Green just did a video about it. They hire models to catfish people out of money, and it's surprisingly well organized. Wait, is that what pig butchering is? I thought it was some sort of scam involving pigs. Now I want to read about it. A pig butchering scam is a type of confidence trick and investment fraud in which victims are gradually lured into making increasing contributions in the form of cryptocurrency to a seemingly sound investment before the party they are dealing with disappears. Oh, okay. But you're saying that they hire models to do this. Like they'll find somebody that has money, and then they'll find a hot girl to get into a relationship with him. And then that hot girl will encourage him to invest his money in this cryptocurrency investment. And then after he's made enough contributions, then she dumps him, and the company runs off with the money and disappears. That's what you're saying? They sell it as a job opportunity to immigrant workers. That sounds like super, super awful. I often wonder about like what goes through people's heads when they're involved in that sort of a thing. I don't think that I am like immune to being scammed, but if some strange woman started trying to get close with me and telling me to invest in things, I would immediately be like, ain't no girl should be talking to me. Not that I'm bad looking or anything like that, but pretty much anybody watching me interact with daily interactions would realize that I see no women as like anything other than my wife, right? All other women are just like people, regular people. I don't make any differentiation, men, women, they're just people. The only person that gets any kind of is my wife. And any woman like acting like that they didn't see the world would be immediate red flag. Like, what the hell are you thinking? You know? But I guess if you're one of these rich billionaires that's already having affairs, and maybe it would, I don't know. I must have zoned out harder than I thought I did just now. It's all right. Okay, my wife, you and I used to watch the show The Blacklist, and one of the craziest things I saw on that show was the episode The Troll Farmer. And in that episode, the troll farmer operation operates exactly like that. Find a pretty girl and then have them, scam them out of their money. I bet it's probably really effective. I mean, like, for the people that would be vulnerable to that thing, it would be really effective. Surely not everybody that is vulnerable to it, though, yeah? I'm just personally super suspicious of anybody that seems to like you right away. You know what I mean? Usually it doesn't work like that. Usually you have to have a bunch of interactions with them before you become good friends and that sort of thing. So you like meet a girl and like immediately they're trying to become a larger part of your life, especially if you're already married, straight to jail. Huge red flag to me. But you know what? This is another thing that I think is kind of weird about the world. We think that the people who have money, that they have to be super smart to have gotten that money, right? Like, everybody hailed Sam Bankman-Fried as a genius. But it actually turns out that he was really stupid in some respects, you know? Now, in the episode, what they did was narrative virality. They ran out of an entire apartment building and had departments that did commenting, photoshopping, posting. Oh, right. Yeah, man. That's another thing that I think is so crazy is like, how much of the success out there is manufactured? Like, we're told that, you know, the people that are successful on YouTube, that, you know, it's just the algorithm and they get lucky or whatever, and or they have good content and the algorithm recognizes them and then pushes, you know, the content to them. But then we find out that like YouTube has the ability to like say, oh, hey, we like this creator, we're going to specifically push them, even though the algorithm isn't doing it for us. Like, we're going to shortcut to the algorithm. Or there are people they use like a vote farm to, you know, get the video lots of views and lots of comments and fake the engagement until the algorithm picks up on it. And then the algorithm picks up on it, and then it becomes its own self-sustaining thing, right? Like, we know that that happens. But, like, to what extent does it actually happen? How much of the success that we see out there is because of that? Are there some of these guys that are, like, at the top of the game on YouTube that utilized some of those methods to get to where they are? How much of it? How widespread is it? No way for me to know. But I wonder sometimes. Because it seems to me that content on YouTube is kind of getting stagnant, and that the algorithm, I don't like what the algorithm is pushing to you, and I kind of refuse to believe this idea that like it's really giving the people what they want to see, because I think it's boring AF these days. It was the algorithm was way better like when we first started this channel, for instance. Like the past, like since let's say the past 4 years has gotten particularly bad. The more you know what's possible, the less you try. Yeah, maybe. I guess the thing is just that like, yeah, most people don't become rich, but I think that most people overestimate what it actually takes to get there. Because once you get into something that like really scales, it just happens really quick, you know? And so yeah, you can have people that have tremendous amount of success and don't really have an effing clue what they're doing. And in fact, I would say that it's very few that actually like, okay, they do know what they're doing, and so then when they have that little bit of success, they're able to build upon it and get bigger and bigger. Like Mr. Beast is probably of that vein. Like he set out to just be a big YouTuber, right? And then when he was successful, he just kept investing back into his business and starting other businesses. And that's what's allowed him to become so incredibly rich. Whereas there's other people that probably had just as much opportunity, if not more opportunity, to be Mr. Beast. But when they had their viral moment, then they're just like, okay, cool, I'm rich now. And they just kind of sit on it. Especially, I think the worst offenders of this are the streamers. There's lots of streamers that like, you know, they've become millionaires from streaming. Okay, and now what are they doing? They're still just streaming every day, and they complain about how they have to stream every day. Well, okay, don't pick up so many expenses so that you could quit your job right now and never have to work another day in your life. You've made millions of dollars. You only need like $2 to $5 million to be set for life, frankly. Or, you know, and like invest the money back into yourself and like start doing other things so you don't have to sit on the stream all day, right? But there's a number of these people lately that have had the audacity to complain about streaming as a job. Like, okay. I strongly believe it does not show what you want to see. It shows a small bit of what you want to see while cramming a bunch of what they want you to see. Exactly. Because there are these videos that, like, you know, I don't want to see it. I'm not interested in that subject. And it just keeps showing it over and over and over again. It's like, why will it show my video like once randomly to a person, but then it will show this other guy's video to me every day for a month? Makes no sense. And I don't want to see that. The trading guru sphere online is both hilarious and did you miss the thing I had said earlier about the Range Rover? So I was browsing around. If I'm bored, I'll do the Instagram in the morning sometimes. You know what's funny about Instagram is that the primary reason I browse Instagram these days is for the ads. I think for some reason the ads that I get on Instagram are really effective. Like, I'll go out and start searching for like I was searching for linen shirts. I still haven't made any kind of like, you have any ideas about like a nice looking linen shirt that I could wear every day? Like an everyday wear kind of a linen shirt that has good texture to it. So I don't want, because I've seen some, they're like, oh, you want to get the Irish linen, and those just look like pressed shirts. I kind of want the texture to it. And then I want linen because that's supposed to be like really cool, and I live in a hot environment. So I'll search for that. And then all of the advertisements that I get on Instagram are about shirts. Cool, exactly what I want. So now I can see who out there is actively advertising about shirts and look at all of the different ones. Haven't found anything that like really caught my eye, but if you have any ideas, let me know. So I'm browsing on Instagram, looking for ads, and there's a person that I had added in the rave days. So there's a bunch of people on my Instagram and Facebook that I don't know really very well, or like I met like one time at a party. So this was one of those people. It was a girl that I met, group of girls I met one time at a party. Okay. And, you know, they've been on my Instagram ever since. And this one I really like. They actually have really good content, but, and not like, you know, just like, what do they call it? Thirst trap content. It's not thirst trap content. It's just like regular, this is my life sort of stuff, right? So they work at a call center, and then all of a sudden they're posting this stuff that like, oh, I invested in this cryptocurrency mining thing and I made $100,000. Okay. I mean, to make $100,000 since the last cryptocurrency run, you basically would have had to have invested like $20,000 into it. So like, I doubt it. You doubt it? Probably you were hacked. Right? So then, next post, what did they decide to do with their $100,000? They bought a Range Rover. A Range Rover. That's like a $60,000, $70,000 car. You buy it brand new. You drive it for 3 years, and then you get rid of it. Because once the manufacturer warranty is gone, you don't want to be in those because they break down a lot and they cost a lot to repair. And so then what you do is you buy another brand new Range Rover. That's what the people that do Range Rovers, like that's what they're doing. Okay. They only have it for like the first few years and then they switch out. So you're going to spend, you made $100,000. You're going to spend it all on a Range Rover that you will then in 3 years have to replace again. And you won't even have enough money left over to get another one. Okay. That's absolutely crazy, right? Like if you make that much money, right? I sure hope that you go and you put it in a safer investment, right? You know, just go and put it in an index fund or something like that. Super crazy, but I bet it works. I bet it works. Like the scammers, they do this for a reason. People are so susceptible to signs of social proof. So wealth signaling is a huge deal, and you go online and you start doing the really big wealth signaling, like you have a Lambo and stuff like that. There's all of these people that just flock to it. It's crazy. And I'm sure that most of my viewers look at that kind of stuff and laugh and think it's silly, but it seems to work really well. I take a pretty active role in closing all avenues for scamming. Well, when I think about something like that, I kind of wonder, like, if there's a confidence scam, how do you close that sort of stuff off? My phone will not make a sound unless it's someone on my contact list. Yeah, I don't pick up. I tell you what, man, it's gotten so crazy, hasn't it? Like, people don't call me, okay? Maybe they used to. There was a day when I used to, but once we had kids, we've so much kept to ourselves since we've had kids. It's just we just do not have the energy to take them out into public very often and to have like a real social life anymore. Because Asher's autistic, so like you really have to watch him. They are thinning out for the PMI news. So yeah, people don't call me. But I get so many spam calls. And they're always like automated ones too. And I'm just like, it's crazy to me. It's like, how does anybody fall for this? Like, it just doesn't seem to work. But you get lots of calls. I struggle with wanting to engage. People don't call me either, and that's probably why, knowing that about myself, I had to take precaution to make sure nobody gets through on my phone unless I know them. It's funny. Okay, so it was 52.5 higher than forecast. So services 52.3 versus 51.4, and composite 52.5 versus 51.4. And so the treasuries are selling. Remember that the S&P PMIs are usually not as important as the ISM ones. So we'll see the ISM in 15 minutes. I'm going to bet that it will probably come out to be pretty similar, but yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't call myself a social person by nature, but we put a lot of effort into, like, when I was doing the DJ thing, I think I was mildly successful. At least I got done what I wanted to do with that. I never wanted to like tour the world and be on national stage or anything. That sounds like a nightmare to me, to be honest. But, we had fun in the local scene and was able to have some good experiences in the local scene. And I still love making the music. I should probably spend more time with that. And then we did politics, and I had a lot of fun with politics, but it's harder and harder these days to get into that, both because of the kids and then because a lot of social institutions basically are still recovering from COVID, Facebook has gotten really bad with scams. Generally speaking, I stay off that platform entirely, but my wife's dad has gotten nailed 5 times by love scams. Really? I guess I should say my favorite genre is trance, but I really listen to everything. I find myself listening to drum and bass more these days, honestly. But these days when I listen to music, I really want something that really, really aggressive. Feels like, gets you going. That's usually not trance. Right. But I do everything. I've kind of pulled back from the techno. I think it's so funny. I'll be super into something, and then that something will become like the next big trend. And by the time it becomes the next big trend, I'm sick of it. It's usually what happens. I feel like that might be bragging that like I'm ahead of the curve, but I think it has more to do with that, like, if you're in the scene, those are the things that are like the scene are big. And so by the time the big guys really pick it up, you know, all of the people that are going to the shows regularly are already sick of it. So like with techno, that happened really, really strongly. It was like, okay, I loved any kind of techno that had a real rumble to it in that kick. I loved that. And then all of a sudden it was like every track was like that. I'm sick of it. Sick. Liquid drum and bass? Nah, I'm not really. Okay, so like, you know what I don't like in drum and bass? Is drum and bass that has too much going on in the mid highs. And so like if you're in a venue, those highs that they reflect off the walls, it just sounds terrible. And I find that happens pretty much everywhere except for on headphones. So I think that the genres that became more popular on the stage, like neurobass and like you know, Skrillex kind of stuff, that's kind of more broken beats, but I really just like Noisia. It's I think my favorite. They don't have that. They don't have all that noise in the highs. Right. Much better, I think. So liquid drum and bass is kind of a little bit older and has a little bit more of that sort of sound to it, right? I'm not as into that. That's only good on headphones. So like a really good example. I wouldn't call this liquid drum and bass. What would this be? This would be like breakcore, junglecore, or something like that. Like really fast beats, right? Is Sewer Slut. Sewer Slut. They have some of the most amazing tracks, okay? But it sounds shit if you're not on headphones, man. Outside of headphones, it is just like headache inducing. Most producers out there aren't producing with a sub and don't really understand what it takes to really make a song sound good on a big sound system. The style of the music kind of takes care of it for them, but it's not intentional. Right? But that's what I like the most, I think. What I like the most is a song with really complicated sub bass. I'm talking like 100 hertz and below. The stuff that you can really kind of only just feel, right? And I don't want it to just be like a rumble. I want there to be like all sorts of different variation in the sub bass. That's my favorite thing. Most producers don't even know how to produce a full recording with directionality, so most things are recorded mono. Well, now you're talking about people like recording guitars and stuff like that, right? That's a different world from me entirely. Yeah, Bitcoin's definitely trying to make all-time highs today. Although it's been, well, I mean, they've been taking off. They've been taking off. They're getting to 70K here. Or they're getting to the overnight highs, rather. I don't know. I already talked about Bitcoin. I feel like I've given it too much time today already. Don't like it. Fatigue of music is almost always from speakers, not the music itself, which is why headphones are the ones that don't hurt and considered the best quality of sound. Well, no. I don't think it's that. In this particular instance, so the thing that I'm talking about, I think the reason that you get a problem is because they add too much stereo widening to it, and so what's happening is you're getting really sharp transients in the like the crying baby sound frequencies. Okay, so like sharp transients in the sound frequencies that your ear is the most sensitive to with stereo. So when you're playing it in a room and those things reflect off of the walls, those transients just turn into like echo, and so it just you can't really hear the beat in it anymore. It just starts to sound like noise. Right. So if you're making that kind of music, right, like some of those things you definitely want mono, right? And even then, you know, if you overdo it, it can still kind of cause a problem because the mono will still echo if those transients are too strong compared to everything else and so forth. So I think that's why it's like that. And basically what happens is the people that produce this, they're producing it on headphones, and so it doesn't translate anywhere else. I'm willing to bet you that Sewer Slut produced almost exclusively on headphones, because it just doesn't translate to other sound systems very well, in my opinion. Like on headphones, it's like some of the most amazing creative music I've ever heard. And then you try playing it in the car, and it just sounds like absolute shit. And then on top of that, you do get fatigue because you're basically having that same kind of drum beat go on for like 5 minutes nonstop. Yeah. That's why they kind of stopped doing it. Just go and look at the way that drum and bass sound changed. There's a lot less cymbal in it. My nose itches a lot today. I was gonna like really trim my beard down, because I kind of feel like sometimes that's tickling my nose, but keep forgetting. Biden administration admits it secretly flew 320,000 asylum seekers into the United States in 2023 alone to reduce the numbers at the border. That sounds like an old story to me, because I definitely remember stories that like they were secretly flying asylum seekers in. But I have not seen one that was like 320,000. 320,000 is pretty wild, isn't it? So I guess the big thing in that story then would be is the number. Teller, where have you been? How's it going? Now, the old story was they were secretly flying them around the country secretly. I gotcha. Yeah. But now they're making the border not look so bad by flying them in from outside the country. Oh, actually that, yeah. Does that change things? I think it could. Because then they're saying, oh, well, we definitely want them to come in. We just don't want them to look like they're all getting stuck at the border and making it look bad. So let's fly them in so that it's not so bad. Jojo Mir, that sounds familiar. Is that one guy? Oh, no, I don't know him. I didn't catch that my collar was all screwed up. Making the border not look so bad by flying them in from outside the country. I don't know. When you say it, it sounds like a major story to me, but I'm just kind of sitting here thinking it over, and I'm not so sure that that's going to be something that people pick up on. Could be wrong, but kind of seems like the sort of a thing that I assumed was already going on, you know? Yeah, people don't pick up on anything. Yeah, you're probably right. It will be used. Well, you know what? I think that Donald Trump will probably use that, right? Like, the whole asylum thing is just crazy. It's so messed up, right? Because I'm sorry, but these people are not people that are like fleeing for fear of their life. They're economic migrants by and large. Most of them do not actually meet the real requirements for asylum, and they're just they figured out that they can kind of take advantage of the law here, and Joe Biden decided to go all in on it. He really was like, he really was, I'm just going to make the most cynical political play of all time and just try and bring in as many future voters for me as I possibly can. That's why he's doing it. You know? That's why he's doing it. And Republicans and moderates care, at least. I don't understand why these people are so crazy about living in the U.S. I don't know what you mean by that, but because I know that you live outside of the U.S., and so from your perspective, it's kind of like, why would you go through that much effort to cross the border illegally and live in the United States like that? And you're right, but that's just because you're not that demographic, right? That's what Donald Trump means by like, they aren't sending their best. Okay, the group of people that want to move across the border are usually the people that don't have a lot of economic activity anyways, right? Ooh, okay, so we had to move up. So services was slightly lower than expected, actually. Wow, so I was proven dead wrong on that one. 52.6 versus 53. Factory orders, month over month down 3.6 versus an expected -3. And services prices paid down considerably, 58.6 versus 62. So I think that a slight move up would be justified. I kind of think that they might be overreacting to that number, but maybe I'm just saying that because my stop is within reach and I really don't want it to get hit. It's okay. Small brains aren't looking at how fast violent crime rates are plummeting across Latin America. Well, I'm not even saying that they're crime ridden. I mean, they're probably more likely to be involved in crime than the regular population. But yeah, there's something not going right in your current life to go through all that effort and move across. It's true. It's not necessarily that they're involved in crime or that they're awful people, because my experience was that by and large, the people that I met that were illegal immigrants were really great, fun people to be around. We can't fathom fleeing to America when you're on the run because we're myopic. That's funny. You got robbed at gunpoint by him? Well, this is another thing that I think is kind of crazy though, is that like the most migrants try to keep a low profile, man. They do. Of course you're gonna get the crazies, but walking out of your pediatrician's what? That's crazy, dude. That sounds awful. Treasury yields lowest since February 8th. It is. It has been over the last 3 days or so. They've washed out like almost half a month, like 3 weeks of Treasury action, and I can't really explain it. The amount that they're moving up on this seems a little extreme to me. well, maybe the services prices paid really, really matters to them. They must be looking at that number and really thinking, yep, see, we are going to get rate cuts in July now. That's got to be what they're thinking. But I still feel like, how do you cut rates with the economy this hot? With the stock market moving the way that it is. Like, the stock market would need to really come off considerably, I think, before you could think about cutting rates. Well, I think the problem with all that kind of line of reasoning, though, Uzi, is that surely you can use logic and deductive reasoning to say, like, these things do happen and these things can be a problem. But it doesn't really tell us, you really kind of need the empirical side of it, right? Like, you have to be able to show to what extent is that happening, right? So I can come in and I can say, like, the border is a big problem. Biden is basically encouraging economic migrants to come across, and our immigration system is broken and it needs to be changed. I don't like the immigration bill that was proposed. Here's why it would just make things worse, etc., 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 right? But it's a different thing to say they've flown 320,000 people over. That there's probably been 2 to 5 million people cross the border since Biden's been in office, right? Now we're talking empirical evidence. Now we can say, like, to what extent? So we'd have to do the same thing for, like, crime statistics, right? To what extent would illegal immigration, or is illegal immigration, contributing to crime right now? It's closer to 8.5, maybe. The last time I read a number, it was 2 to 4. But there's probably going to be a really wide range of estimates for that sort of a thing. I don't think that they really have a clue how many have actually come. I like 2 to 4 because basically it says, like, it's changed the U.S. population by like 1 to 2%. And I know that a lot of people think like 1 to 2% is like nothing, but like 1 to 2% is actually huge. With the kind of numbers that we work with, that's huge. That is a massive change to the future of the country. Massive change to the future of the country. Probably one of, if not the most influential events to happen for the next 100 years to affect where the United States is going. Is that border opening up? It really is. Really is. Okay, so where were we before the news? 03? That's not right. Did my DOM reset or something? Because shouldn't my low... Oh, actually 03 is correct. 02 is correct. Okay. So it was basically like at the low of this range when that news hit. And they've retraced about half of it. Could maybe see 07 will kind of be an interesting spot to watch if they're able to make it back to that. The Europe will become an Islamic theocracy. Maybe. I don't know if I agree with that. Like, I think that Europe will become largely Arab, but I don't know if the people that are over there are really, would make it like an Islamic theocracy. You know what I mean? Like, I think that by and large, most of those people that come over are more secular. And then they become more secular living in the West. So I don't think that it would ever get to the point that they would turn into a theocracy. Okay, prove me wrong. Show me empirical evidence about that. Because I just said I'm not sure, right? So I'm merely going through and saying, okay, well, why might that statement be false? Well, maybe it's because even though the demographics are going more Islamic and Muslim, they're not the extreme kind, or that would want to impose an Islamic theocracy in Europe. Maybe I shouldn't even say the extreme kind, but they don't want to impose an Islamic theocracy. So, like, do we have polling numbers on that? Or do we have demographic numbers about, like, when their kids grow up, what their kids are going towards? I'm getting scared because he went quiet, which probably means he's doing a Google search. By the way, what did the dollar do off this? Wow, the dollar tanked. Oh, no, you're just outside smoking a cigarette. Oh, okay. Okay, I'm going to do a Google search. European Muslim migrants polling theocracy. Okay. Oh, this one's not very good. This is from 2012 and is in Islamic Spring countries, so I don't think that that's what we want. Oh, that's interesting. According to the census of 2001, Britain, only 3% of Britain's population are Muslim. But that was 2001. Well, that's not very helpful. That's not very helpful at all. Well, I'm not finding any empirical evidence that would answer this question for us. I don't know. You used the word demonstrably wrong. I think that you should take that back. Take that back, sir. I am not demonstrably wrong. I could be wrong, but I don't think that we have any kind of evidence that we can look at to demonstrably prove. Even if Europe is going more, let's say, Arab or Islamic, I do not see evidence to support the notion that there's enough fundamentalists over there that would like to impose theocracy that would be something with a possibility of happening. Fine, you're very likely wrong. Thank you. That's better. Is that last name sounds just No, it's the name of a character from a cartoon, dude. It's from, haven't you ever seen American Dad? It's like the name of the alien, right? I can't remember. I can't remember now. It's been years since I seen that around. Oh, Uzi is the contractor Stan and Francine hired to remodel their kitchen. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Is that what you look like in real life? This guy with a gray beard, like, you know, completely bald, gray beard, you know, wearing a Hawaiian shirt of some sort. Oh, you're right. The alien's name is Roger. It's also political, but I didn't know at the time that I made it. Oh, that's funny. I mean, like, should I picture you like that all the time? Because I always kind of assumed that you looked like a Mexican. That's what I thought. That's what my guess was. that or like just your stereotypical Florida white trash. Those were my two guesses. So I've never seen a picture of him. Actually, has he? Maybe you have shown me a picture of you and I just forgot. I don't remember anymore. Oh, you're Italian with a German last name. Also, maybe you do look like the guy in the cartoon. Okay. That's funny. You're Italian with a German last name. That's funny. Okay, so you know what I think is interesting is, like, I'm looking for shirts, right? Like I was talking about how I browse Instagram for the ads and stuff. Well, they make a big deal out of where the shirts are from, right? They're Italian shirts and whatnot. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I care what it looks like, what it's made out of. I don't know. The Italian name and German last name also converted to Islam in 2008. So wait, are you saying that you converted to Islam in 2008? That does not match up with other things that you've said. Is American turning into a Christian national? No, dude, the Christian nationalism thing is so... Okay, here's what's going on with that, okay? In the United States, when you go to school and they're teaching you about history, one of the things that they'll teach you about history is the time around Andrew Jackson, when there was American nationalism was on the rise. And American nationalists believed that it was the United States' destiny to stretch from sea to sea. And so they pushed to, you know, to eventually buy or get these parts from Mexico so that the United States could be from sea to sea. Okay? And so when you're learning about that in school, they'll say, what is a nationalist? Well, a nationalist is somebody that really loves their country and thinks their country is the greatest country in the world. Okay? That's the definition that Americans are taught. So there are these people out there that they say, well, I think that America is the greatest country in the world and I'm Christian. So does that make me one of those? That's what they think, right? And the liberals know this. Okay, the liberals that are a little bit, you know, they're the college educated people. They took European history, right? And they know that actually the word nationalism really means like that a country should be for a certain group of people, and that group of people's interests should be put above all else, right? And so American nationalism actually is kind of the same thing as to say, well, America is the greatest country in the world, and the interests of Americans should should come first, and we don't necessarily care about how it potentially affects other people, like that Mexico would have less land or something like that, right? But when you combine it together with another word, that basically identifies the group of people that matters the most, right? So Israel is a Jewish nationalist country, which means it is a country that is set up primarily to promote and support the interests of Jewish people. That is its primary objective, okay? The United States is not a nationalist country. Many people are nationalist, but like the entire founding of it is I would argue like inherently non-nationalist. So what's happening is the left is basically goading Republicans into calling themselves like racists and stuff, like identifying as something that really is not their beliefs whatsoever, right? And so then what happens is you get people like Joe Biden, and they come in and they're like, this is a serious problem in our country, Christian nationalists, whatever. And then all of the Christians go around and they're like, well, I'm Christian and I think that the United States is, does that mean that I'm one of those? And then he can go, see, they're everywhere and they want to bomb you and all this, right? It's the most retarded thing. One of the most retarded things I've seen in American politics, to be honest with you. But that's what that's all about. Okay, let's see here. In practice now, I'm not religious. In 2008, I took Shahada. Friend brought me into the fold after months going to a mosque with him. Okay. I've always been religiously exploratory. 2008 till like 2010 to practice Islam, though I've never really picked up another faith, so technically still Muslim, just not a good... Oh, okay, good. So what you're saying is if a couple of your good friends pulled you over to the Mormon church and you were good enough friends with them, I guess you would become Mormon, or you know, you know what? I think that most people would kind of take that kind of like attitude and approach towards God, like, and say that that's like bad or whatever. But I actually think that approach is really smart. Like, church is, at the end of the day, religion at the end of the day really is a social institution, and it should support your social family that you have. And one of the big problems that we have in the United States is that church was like where the primary community for Americans came from. And then in the last 30 years, Americans have become unreligious. And so now they don't have that community. And sometimes that community gets replaced with destructive things, that I feel. So I'd rather, you know, I think it's a good thing for people. And if I lived in a Muslim country, I think that if I lived in a Muslim country, I would still be like actively practicing Mormon, but I would also go and do the Islam stuff too, is my guess. But I don't really know like what the situations and the social dynamics are there and everything. What would it be appropriate? Like, would me doing both of those upset people? I don't know. But I would want to be involved in the local customs and stuff of the place that I was living. Would you also say that the USA is not a racist country? I fundamentally disagree with the definition of racism that people are throwing around. I think that they redefined the word racist to make political points, right? Like, the definition of words, I think a lot of people, they take this tack that like, you know, definitions are definitions and you can't change the definitions of words. Well, actually, they're not. Definitions are just meanings that we attach to things, and we change the definitions of words all the time, right? And I would say that the definitions, the words that we choose to define things kind of says a lot about the culture, because the culture is kind of like that base piece of knowledge, that base training that your neural networks get to help you interpret the world and interact with other people. And so in that respect, the words that we use matter. And so in this country, racism has been a really, really bad word, because what racism basically meant to most people was discriminatory action towards people of other groups because you think that those other groups are inferior to you in some way. That's what we all kind of grew up in the 90s being told what racism was, right? And then they changed it and they said, actually, racism is when a group of people is systematically oppressed, right? So when you say that it's the thing that like a group of people has been systematically oppressed, well, that is true in the United States, that for a good portion of United States history, that black people were held as slaves and were oppressed. And even after that, there's been a lot of things that have been going on that have made it difficult for them to recover. Okay, because there's lots of minorities out in the world that they recover and they do fine, but like there continues to be cultural things going on and stuff that kind of hold them back. And I'm not saying that it's like their own culture. I'm saying outside influences is probably the primary thing. So that's how they justify saying that the United States is racist, right? But if you go back to the definition of it that we all grew up with, okay, which was like, do you believe that people should be, oh wait, hold on, Ricky Gutierrez is spamming in our, oh man, alligator beat me to it. Yeah. But if you go back on the definition that we all grew up with, America is the least racist country in the world. You go and you look at the polling, like, are you okay with living next to people of a different race? Okay. The Americans, score the highest on that question of anywhere in the world. Europe is more racist than the United States in that respect. So no, I think it's inappropriate to say that the United States is a racist country. I think that you're hijacking a word to kind of give people this nasty feeling connotation and hate the country that they grew up in. A great country, you know? But the word was changed not because it helped us better understand the world and things like that. The word was changed because it was politically convenient for people. I don't think you can measure, well, that's my definition of it. I would not think twice about if, you know, my neighbors moved out, the race of the people that moved in would not factor into what I thought about them whatsoever. I think there's an industry that's very dependent upon people think it. There absolutely is. Well, and again, it comes down to these luxury beliefs, right? If you're a really rich person, then you should have a lot of time and energy to think about people that are oppressed and trying to help them and so forth, right? And so that's why they believe what they do. It's a luxury belief. And so then they kind of change it all so that, you know, to play into it, so that those people with that luxury belief have plenty of stuff to fret and worry about, right? like to these, you know, what I would be interested to ask super liberal, like if I was meeting a person that was like a big leftist activist that was highly concerned about systemic racism and things like that. Here's a question that I would want to ask them. What do you know about your neighbors? Because I'm going to bet you that most left-wing people do not know their neighbors, right? They live in highly populated areas, and the more densely populated it is, the less you tend to know your neighbors. That's just the way that it is. Because I think that you should get to know your neighbors and worry about your neighbors and the lives of the other people in your community first before you go out and start trying to tackle something like, you know, that America was founded on racist principles or something like that. Right? Because at the end of the day, I really don't, like, I might know a lot about policy. I might not know a lot about government systems and economic systems and things like that. But I don't live next to these people that we're typically talking about. You know, that's just the way that it is. If I lived next to people, then I would be concerned with it. But I really don't think it's my place to be trying to solve some problem for somebody else that I don't even live there. It's ridiculous. There's no way that you're going to make the correct decisions and really actually help those people. You know? So I'd be interested to see how they would react to something like that. All of my neighbors are Spanish and I know all of them. That's good for you. The ones that are tough to know are, yes, it's true. It's true. Renters are tough to know who they are. You just kind of assume that they're not going to be there, and it's true. When you own a house, you're much more motivated to know who your neighbors are. You know, I don't know what it would be like if I lived outside of Utah. Here in Utah, you know, everybody goes to the same church, so you pretty much already know everybody anyways. I want to argue when I'm at the gym. Oh, see, I asked the right question. You know, another day, perhaps. You know, the treasuries did not come back quite as far as I wanted, because I did want to see them touch that 07, but they're just kind of sitting here now. So the whole thing is kind of curious. I'm kind of wondering what's going on with the SPOOs here, right? Because on the news, they jumped along with the treasuries, but then, you know, the treasuries kind of held the gains, and the S&P 500 reversed and pushed significantly lower. I guess part of what I'm trying to say is that improvement in people's lives tends to come from the relationships with the people around them and not from government, not from people commenting online, and not, you know. I grew up knowing all my neighbors, and the new people that moved in years later are antisocial. Maybe. I mean, I feel like that in American life that people are just more antisocial than they've ever been, right? Like, it seems like it's harder these days to, like, organize something and get a bunch of people to come. I just can see that from, like, church activities and things like that, right? Church activities or meetup.com groups. How big is this drop in ES today? 0.81, so we're not even to 1% yet. But we are okay. The low from 2 days ago was essentially 50.90. So we're like right at the bottom of it. That's modernity. I'm suburban, but times have changed. People are more private now, it seems. Well, So part of the is that, like, okay, so like if you live in a suburb, right? Like what is 200 people essentially, right? Like that's maybe your block, right? Maybe your block or 2 blocks is 200 people. That's like Dunbar's number. That's about the number of people that you can think about, right? Then you live in an apartment complex, right? If you live in an apartment complex, you know, there's probably like 1,000 people that live in your apartment complex. That's too many for you to memorize. And then they're constantly moving in and out, right? So you as a human don't really have the mental capacity to keep track of that, frankly. So you're right. That is a big factor behind why it is. But I on the same token, I don't feel that people really prize those things. Boomers in particular don't seem to prize those things. Like, from my perspective, if I was 60 years old, okay, what do I have left to do? I mean, like, there's what you enjoy doing and all of that sort of stuff, but I would hope that by 60 that if you had some big dream that you were grinding towards, that you had done those, right? You want to be like retired, right? So I would think that I would be taking every opportunity to be with family that I could, right? But in general, it seems to me that that's not what boomers do. Like they retire and then they're like, oh, let's go on a cruise, let's do this and that. Like, they're not going to be around for... My parents aren't going to be around. Well, they got plans that they should go through with their plans. There's nothing... I mean, that's what they're supposed to do. But it's just, you know, that's kind of like the cultural expectation. And I don't think that the millennials are like that. Like with millennials, millennial fathers spend more time with their kids than past generations. And I kind of suspect that when my kids have kids, that I will probably spend more time with their kids than my parents spent with them, or whatever it is. Right? I will spend more time with my grandkids than my parents spent with their grandkids. Yeah, I think that I will spend more time with my grandkids than my parents spent with their grandkids. And part of that seems to be like a cultural difference between generations. So it was like, that's the way that the boomers were. Gen X kind of became antisocial. Am I wrong? I think Uzi is kind of more Gen X, right? Am I wrong? I feel like that Gen X just was, by the time they got out of school, they were like just so fed up with people that Gen X seems more antisocial to me. It seems like America is just too diffuse to put the right effort into the right things and fix problems. Well, when you're talking about America as a whole, I think it's the oppression of systems. This is what I think it is. This is what I'm kind of trying to tell people. So, like, Dune is a really interesting story because Dune is basically like asking, okay, we know that if you give a person all power, that like that kind of tends to end badly. That bad people can come in and take power and do bad things, and so centralized power is kind of a bad thing, right? But most people think that that's like all it's trying to say. They say, well, that's what the author said that Dune was about, so like it's as simple as that. But it's not as simple as that, because Paul Atreides in Dune is not actually a bad guy. I mean, I wouldn't call him a hero, but he's not a bad guy either. Supposedly, there is some sort of golden path, and the actions that he is taking is on the pathway to that golden path. And apparently, the actual real golden path is like even more terrible than what Paul did, right? And he's doing that because he can see the future and he knows what the optimal future is. So why is the optimal future so awful? Well, it's because of us. It's because we as people have these tendencies to follow charismatic leaders and all of this sort of a thing, that it has to be that way. That in that world, like they have to go through this like terrible traumatizing experience of having a dictator so that humanity never wants to mess with it again. And that's basically what the thing is about. It's like they can go through that, and then humanity will be ready to expand, and that will prevent humanity from stagnating and surviving. Right? That's Dune. Okay? So there's this kind of this thing that's like, okay, you don't want to have centralized power. You want to have like systems and decentralized systems, right? My argument is that all systems suck, or rather that you can think up of any type of social construct or government construct or any kind of system. There is going to be inherent flaws in things. Like the logic just does not map the world perfectly the way that we want it to. There's always edge cases, and especially when you get into a system that complicated, the number of edge cases is just like more than any one person can even fathom. So what America has run into, like we're always concerned about a dictator taking control and everything, because that's kind of been like the problem that we've had in the past. But now I believe that we have the opposite problem. We have a system, and we are now at the mercy of this system. The system has become so strong, it's beyond any one person. And so when the system screws up and there's a fundamental problem in the system that needs to be solved, you're not able to do it because nobody is able to gain enough power and enough political will to make the change happen. And that has basically been America for the last 20 years. It's like, we all see these certain problems out there, we disagree about how to solve them, and none of them can get solved because we don't have enough political will. Nobody has enough political will or power to do it. Well, you call it a corporatocracy, but I'm just talking about this, like the whole system, right? So you combine corporations and government and everything else that's involved. You've created a system where it's decentralized and the power is decentralized, but because it's so much so, you can't actually change the system for the better. The system is having a trouble evolving. Right? Now, part of the problem, in my opinion, is that so many people have decided to take the selfish route, right? So you can come into a situation and you can say, well, if I did X thing, okay, if I, Seth, decided to come in and just do whatever it was that was necessary to make the YouTube channel as successful as possible. So use all of the kind of social proof techniques, flaunt wealth, tell people that they're going to become rich from doing this, etc., 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 and sucker them into, that would be good for me, but it wouldn't be good for my audience because I want my audience to be successful at the thing that they're trying to do, trading, which is extremely difficult. And so I kind of have to take a different approach and go do things and teach in a way that I believe is the most likely to lead them to success. And I know that most people won't be successful, but I think that what I do when I teach gives you a much better chance of having the long-term success than a lot of the other stuff that's floating around out there, right? And so I am making an explicit decision that, okay, there are some things that I could do that would be beneficial for me, but I don't really need those things. And why would I do that? I care more about my people, right? And that was always the thing. And I think that was part of why America lasted as long and has done as well as it is because we would come to certain points where we would kind of see a problem. And then we would say, but you know what? The right thing to do is this, right? And the problem is that post-World War II, the government has made enough selfish decisions on its own. I think the first one that I can think of that I kind of feel like started it all was their decision to stiff all of the World War I veterans post World War I and not pay them. Right? That was the first selfish decision that the government made. And so then people go and they see that, and then they see all of these other people that are being selfish and being really successful, and then they decide, oh, I guess I should do that too. And so now you have everybody that are making the wrong decisions on everything and doing what helps them the most personally and doing things that they know are detrimental to everybody else. And so there's no way to overcome those systemic problems anymore. Because the only way that you fix the system is everybody taking one for the team and doing the correct thing. And it's just, you're not going to see people do that anymore. If I was going to write my own sci-fi like Dune, I think that the sci-fi that I would write would be about people that are oppressed by the system and not about a maniacal dictator taking over. I don't think that that's as big of a concern anymore. I am extremely skeptical of this idea that the United States could be taken over and turned into could be taken over by a despot, right? I think that the American system just protects us against it too much. People keep saying that that's what Donald Trump wants to do, but that was not what he did in office. Not at all. Facebook is going through a massive outage right now, really? That's interesting. Well, that certainly wouldn't help the stock market because Facebook has been one of the biggest gainers these days, huh? Wait, no. Well, okay, so it didn't automatically log me in, so that right away has me like,
Block by.
Yep. And then if I try to log in, it just loops. Oh no, it tells you the password is incorrect. And now you're right. And that's the one that I have saved in 1Password, so. What was that? Blocked by at 09.5. That's where a point of control has been for the since the news. So already kind of evidence of a liquidity hole there. And that probably means that we're not going to see much more movement before we have to go. The most recent example of how selfish people have become is the toilet. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because there was more than enough toilet paper for everybody, but because they were all hoarding it, it became a desired commodity. Yeah. And the stores even put in all of these policies, like you can only take this much toilet paper and everything, and people still would do everything they could to take as much as they could. I really hate the kind of like intergenerational bashing that I see a lot of online, but I do believe that boomers are more selfish than previous generations. And I think that millennials are quite selfish in their own ways too, but I think that they're kind of looking at the way that boomers have done things and they're kind of saying, I don't think that I want to be like that. So maybe there's some hope. Maybe there's hope. Starting to see oil take off here. The S&P 500 has flattened out a little bit, so interesting that the clicking that I'm hearing kind of seems to coincide with oil move, even though they're definitely coming from the ES. I don't have a clicky click on oil, so but oil is like going crazy. So there's something going on here that I missed. Okay, well, I can see First Squawk talking about Facebook being down. Tech stock slump. Oh. Mm. You know what? I shouldn't say, I'm gonna say something stupid. But it's just how I feel at the moment. I would love to be on that team. Like this sounds like the kind of problem I'd be into. This is what I do at work as site relay. This is exactly the kind of problem that we'll deal with. It's like, yeah, well, people from this one particular segment can't seem to log in right now. What's with that? Okay, we go in and we look at it and figure out what's going on. Try and fix, re-engineer the system so that those are, reduce those kinds of problems. It's usually more often like a performance problem, but I digress. That's what's going on right now. Is the SRE team is at work at Facebook, and I would love to have that position. That sounds like a problem. That sounds like an interesting problem to solve. Facebook is there, but you can't log in. It gives you a login is bad. It's kind of funny because we were talking about, I was browsing Instagram this morning, so. Okay, so this story that you were talking about, Uzi, now that I'm kind of browsing back through my Twitter a little bit more deeply, I can see Elon Musk talking about it. I definitely see people on Twitter talking a lot about this. I only found out because I was BSing with a friend in Messenger. I still do. Wait. So you got the story and you tried to send it in Messenger and it wouldn't let you send it? Are you for real? On that particular story? Like, I know that happens on Facebook, but that happening for that particular story is like a deal to me. Oh, okay. Oh, and nothing would. Oh, for Facebook. Yes. So Facebook Messenger just stopped working. Yeah, that would be a problem if I need, because most of my communication with my wife goes through Facebook Messenger. Because I met her on Facebook, right? We met on Facebook, and so like most of the communication goes through Facebook. And when it logged me out and told me a password, I was like, what the F? That's funny. Okay, now the treasuries are, they just sold through a 7K iceberg at 08.5, which is the bottom of the range. So somebody is actually deciding to sell enough that they pushed it out of the range. That's something else. I should have gotten that from the, yeah, you know what? Lately I have not been very good at watching the Twitter. I think part of that is that there's just not as much useful information on Twitter these days since it moved to X, but I'm still working from the assumption that that's kind of like a temporary blip in the road and that eventually that, it'll turn back in, because none of the other services are filling that need. Like Threads does not do it. You cannot really get live updates suitable for trading from Threads. But you can still find it on Twitter. Threads still exists, right? Did you hear this whole thing that like only 10% of the audience stayed for Threads or something? Like it's kind of funny because when I'm browsing Instagram, it will show me Threads and try to get me to view it. And so there are some people that are like highly engaged over there and trying to make it work, but it clearly not very many stuck around. Yeah, well, we saw the 07. So I guess we did get the pullback I wanted in the end. I wonder if it could go further now, though. You think they could make it back to like 04.5? Yeah, remember the argument we had. You won't make a competitor to Twitter without real-time chronological updates. Meta blows at that stuff, so they will never... I agree. I think so. I mean, I do think that Twitter could be replaced at some point, but I think that to replace Twitter, you need to have real-time chronological... Yeah. That you want to, like, the reason that Twitter is valuable is because you can get breaking news from it. And if I like Reddit is, you know, it's a completely different kind of technology, but it's still a social media network, and it's still a social media network that you get a lot of information from. But Reddit is terrible for trying to get, like, breaking news, you know? Meta is too heavily invested in the dopamine rush of randomizing the feed with the back-end algorithmically curated suggestion. Yeah. Yeah, you know, the thing is that I really feel like that these social media companies are perhaps misusing the machine learning technology. But, like, how would I show that, you know? I think that they are running into the exact same biases that people run into when they do backtesting machine learning kind of stuff against stocks. You are overfitting it to the short term. And so after 5 years, nobody's interested anymore. Like, I really strongly feel like that's what's going on with YouTube, because I can remember times where I'd go on YouTube and I'd go to the front page and I'd start opening up videos, and I could just watch videos all day. And now I'll go over there and, you know, there's maybe 1 or 2 videos that I really want to watch. And they're only because those are from channels that, like, I watch every video of theirs. But, like, most of the content that it organically recommends, even the content that, like, if I search for something, is just trash. So much of it is just trash. And the problem is that, like, the website has been Mr. Beastified. So, like, all of the content is trying to be like Mr. Beast, and it sucks. Especially if you want informational content, which is where I kind of felt like YouTube really shined. People pointing out all these sites are going down and having issues on Oh, right. Well, but Twitter's still up. Why would Facebook matter? But I bet you I know what it is, though. Like, I'm familiar with this kind of problem. So, like, for systems like this, often, like, your login is handled from a different mechanism from the rest of the website. So if there's an issue with the login in particular, then basically, like, it logs you in and, like, nothing happens. The website doesn't know what to do, so it just reloads you back to the login page. And or it will tell you, like, your password was incorrect or something. So you can kind of get into these weird situations with the cloud and everything, because the processes that are doing the login are different from the processes that run everything else. So it's probably just a cloud issue that they should be able to fix relatively quickly. So, like, if it's still down by tonight, then I'm going to be like, what's going on, right? Plus, it's just Twitter. I don't know if anybody really... Well, I mean, Facebook. I guess Facebook is probably still the most popular social network? I don't know. Let's see here. Social network popularity. 2024 Statistica. Yeah, Facebook is still the most popular, followed by YouTube, and then WhatsApp. Instagram, TikTok, WeChat, Facebook, Telegram. Twitter's way down there. Kind of tagged 07, but we didn't really stay below it. Oh, that's interesting. Biden administration announced a rule Tuesday to cap all credit card late fees at $8 or about 1/4 of the average late fee of $32. Just the late fees, really? That's okay. I think that they can because of the Consumer Credit Bureau, right? This is exactly, I tell you what, this is exactly what Republicans were warning about when they were making that rule. They didn't want Elizabeth Warren in that, you know, I think that she did eventually get put in it, right? But that was what that whole thing was about, was that they knew that they would be able to make rules like this. That's pretty crazy. No, I don't know about that one, Uzi. Because while credit card debt is at an all-time high in notional values, it's not at all-time highs in relation to people's income or as like how much of a debt burden there is. In fact, when you consider like the percent, the average debt burden as a percent of their income that credit card debt is at, it's still at relatively good levels. So I think that is a statistic that is like very heavily misused by people like doomers. But you know, I could foresee a situation where like missed payments goes up in the near future. Sure. I don't know. We have a really contradictory economy, don't we? So it's kind of hard to make any kind of a prediction of that sort. But I would think that the next thing is that they would put limitations on overdraft fees, right? At the same time, this is exactly the kind of regulation that that case where they're trying to overturn Chevron could eventually like result in almost all of these things being overturned. That would be interesting. If the Chevron doctrine gets overturned, this whole thing that I'm talking about, where we have like system paralysis, where we are at the mercy of the tyranny of the system now instead of like dictators. That issue will start to get really interesting, because then you will start to run into situations where like something clearly needs to be done, and we've been relying on the president and presidential orders to deal with these things, and Congress needs to make a law, and then they can't seem to get anything passed. Maybe that would force some of these issues to come to a head and they actually do get something done. I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing. The E-mini is still clicking a lot. It is the E-mini, right? Market depth for it. Yeah, it is definitely the E-mini. I think that I should just adjust. Oh, interesting. It's a big order that's really far away. It's I can't see it. They're saying 14, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 13, 14. Why am I not seeing it? Oh, it is in I'm misreading this. It is actually in Xian. So I should shift this. I should say min size 1500 now. Filter those out. Need to rearrange that. There we go. Better. Oh, it's time to go. Well, I'm trying to decide if this move down in the S&P 500 is significant. I'm kind of leaning still towards no. Like, they did not breach the lows there. If we like breached lows and closed towards the end of the low of the day, then that would be a different thing. This looks to me more like something that they will probably try and buy the dip and recover a large portion, if not all, of the downside before the end of the day. And as for the treasuries, well, I think that 07 is a reasonable place to be after that news. It sure moved up quickly though, right? So the market still seems to be reacting to buys more than sells. Like when news comes in and it's really you know, it's a little bit weak, like the treasuries buy a lot harder. So but I also still kind of feel that like the longer term trajectory here is down. So we'll see if they might take out my stop tonight. We'll see. But I think it's time for me to get going. Should we change today's title to Market Sell? Facebook down, market sell. That's a weird thing, but that's what's happening. Yeah. Good. I had fun today. I will see you guys tomorrow. We'll start to get more of the bigger economic data, and I might actually like start taking live trades. So we'll see how it comes out. Today, I was not really a fan of the way that this is all played out. So stay excellent, team.